Joining us now is OjyOkpe, with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinx.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. How are you this morning?
Good, I'm fine.
Perfect. A perfect Tuesday because we are blue together. How are you? Good morning, Ayomide. How are you this morning?
I am doing great.
Perfect. Good morning, Rufai. How are you?
Morning, Oji.
Very good.
Perfecto.
Perfecto. Let's begin what's trending. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We'll begin what's trending now. After several months of negotiation, the federal government of Nigeria announced on Monday that an executive bill on the new minimum wage will be transmitted to the National Assembly after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu meets with organized labor on Thursday. This is all coming as Nigerians lament the high cost of living in the country and imminent threats of a nationwide protest over hunger.
Everything is high. There's nothing to hide about. But we are the common people. That's what we are trying to make them to understand, that things is very high for everybody, both for rich and for the poor. The tomato you are talking about, tomato is about 18,000 per basket. Yes, I mean, but that basket of tomato was like 2,000, 3,000 before. Pepper of 1,000 naira cannot cook a meal.
I'm a single mom with plenty children, so it affects a lot. Before I can use like 5,000 and get meat, rice and oil. But now 5,000, just a one mudu, we are paying one mudu, like the foreign rice, one mudu for 3,500.
We need to feel the pulse of Nigerians. I mean, those are traders, some, other customers in the market. Our correspondent asked them in Abuja, and you can hear the cry of the people in the meantime. Reactions have trailed the federal government's announcement that it has distributed 740 trucks of rice to 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory to address the economic hardship in the country. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohamed Idris, made the announcement at the end of the Federal Executive Council meeting on Monday, adding that the President has directed the Minister of Agriculture to ensure food availability for Nigerians.
The Minister of Agriculture had earlier been directed to ensure that food is being made available to Nigerians, and the understanding is that about 20 trucks of rice has already been supplied to each of the states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. Each of the trucks, of course, is carrying about 1,200 bags of 25 kg rice. The federal government also wants to appeal to the subnationals to ensure effective distribution of these food items so that those that are most vulnerable have access to this commodity. That is the principle behind this thinking originally.
All right, there's a lot of conversation around the fact that, there's not been any announcement on how these food items, the rice, will be distributed to each state. I've not been able to get in touch with any governor to find out if they've actually received the rice. I mean, while some people have commended this move, I mean, a lot of Nigerians have said that this is not good enough. Let me take a tweet from Kumi, who wrote, "My state, Ondo State, has 18 LGAs, meaning my LGA receives just one truckload of supplies. This can't even feed a town, let alone an entire LGA, assuming if it even arrives. 1. How do you identify the most needy? 2. How do you distribute accordingly? 3. How sustainable is this in the long run to address the current food crisis and inflation?" Rufai, I heard you ask a very pertinent question about the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, which is, the ministry that is responsible for distributing this sort of palliative for the vulnerable in Nigeria.
So a couple of things. Let me just answer this question. One, they would never distribute effectively. You know why? Because about 30% will go to incompetence, another 20% will go to waste and corruption. That's about 50%. Some of these things you will still find in warehouses, so they will never distribute effectively. Secondly, how are they going to figure out the most needy? They don't have data to be able to figure it out. And when I was calling humanitarian ministry, I was thinking that because of the fact that Betta then before she was suspended, did say, oh, they have mapping of every area, GPS and everything. In climes, in better climes, what they do is that you just meet in front of your house. Look at during COVID, all the palliative, people just woke up and they saw it in front of their homes. But here where you don't even have a proper numbering system and all of that. And by the way, what's going on in Nigeria? Because, you know, there's a letter circulating.
Oh, that's my next
that
story.
somebody, that Betta, it was said that
Don't
Betta, in
worry.
fact, I've sent her a message. I've not gotten a response. Is it actually you that, I mean, because we don't know what's going on here.
Bola, yeah.
So when you look at it, it's not going to be distributed effectively. And it's not going to be sustainable in the long run. What is the sustainable thing? Two things. Number one, government must see how to go into the middleman ecosystem. How do you do that? Government must now need to, even to partner with private companies, have more storage facilities for food. That's number one. So that some of the foods that are grown, government buys some of it off the farmers, put it in their storage facility to be able to have food security. Secondly, government must massively encourage and incentivize farming. Thirdly, government must also massively invest in all-round, all-year farming. Another point of view as regards this is, now government must now be able to help people, smallholders, farmers, by giving money and incentive for fertilizer, just like additional did that time.
Yeah.
Also, the need of research and development and improved variety in the farming sector. Also, government must be able to see how they can come into the logistic value chain. I've always said we have trades in this country. If government can also help some of these farmers to use trade to transport their products to be able to reduce logistics costs.
Absolutely.
Also, the irrigation value system, because irrigating, putting water on the farm is a big deal. How can we cushion the cost? Because most of the cost of this farming implement to goes to buying diesel to be able to, or petrol to be able to pump water to irrigate the farm.
That's another
so
issue.
are they going to come into that value chain? So there's a lot of things that we've put on ground that government needs to come into the value chain. But some people also argue as a government is not in the business of doing all of this. But at the time you have a crisis like this, you need to step in. That's going to be the sustainable way forward. Not these trucks of rice that will be lost to corruption and everything. It's not this same country that the woman that gave COVID palliative has now got in government position.
Well, we have all those stories.
I used
to fire,
COVID palliative for our birthday.
But you know, I mean, I think that, you know, we need to hear from the state governors as well, because they said that, you know, this has been distributed to them and how they intend to share it. Yeah. I mean, I know that at one point there was the conversation about, you know, the state's social register and all of that they have that in control to be able to identify the poorest of the poor. Rufai, in the meantime, a post like you have just mentioned on the X account of the embattled Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Edu, who remains officially suspended over an alleged 585 million naira scandal in the ministry, has caused a frenzy on social media. The post was a screenshot of a condolence message to the victims of the just building collapse using the letterhead of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. The statement reads in part, "Our hearts are heavy with sorrow for the families who have lost their loved ones and for the community enduring this devastating ordeal. In times like this, we find ourselves united in our shared grief and determination to support one another through this tragedy." The letter has raised more than a few eyebrows, with some suggesting that the minister has been quietly reinstated, bypassing formal processes and public scrutiny. Ayo, obviously, you would know that this has caused a lot of reactions. I mean, Rufai has tried to reach out to her. Yeah. I mean, her, you know, Twitter account is at this point private. You have to actually request and you know, get into her account to actually see the letter. But the letter is everywhere. The letter is circulating, and you know, and she hasn't debunked it as of yet. But I know we also wanted to talk about the Jos building collapse yesterday, which is quite an unfortunate incident. It wasn't just Jos. There were other places that these buildings have collapsed. I mean, her letter is welcomed, but she has definitely flouted a lot of rules by posting that letter. Absolutely. If she used the ministry's head letter to write it.
I think beyond hearing from Dr. Betta Edu herself, I think also we do need an explanation from the EFCC.
Right.
Since I was here talking about how the chairman of the EFCC has made efforts in fighting corruption, and he was leading that work on the deal against I think anti-corruption. We need an explanation from the EFCC. Is she still under investigation? Where are they in the process? What has come out of that investigation, so that we don't have situations as we've had in the past where we just have announcements of these figures who then become sacred cows where nothing is done to them, and they Nicodemously come back into their position as it seems. I'm still hopeful that we'll get clarity on this, because maybe she made a mistake out of the letterhead. Maybe she wanted to emphasize.
You can just tweet now. You don't have to use a letter.
Right?
You can just send out a tweet.
It might just be the culture of anyhowness. Maybe she just got access to it. We cannot speak for her yet until we get clarity on what has happened. But in terms of the just incident, there are so many things on her table.
Yes.
I mentioned that the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation should be working overtime at the moment, because this is their moment to justify their pay. Nigerians are hungry, as you showed in that video. And I hope, by the way, that they showed the president this video, because Senator Ali Ndume says he does not have an idea of what is happening. So let somebody send him that clip just to show him, But on a very serious note, in terms of this is their moment to work, this is their moment to actually oversee these interventions by government. Now, going back to that first story, 24,000 bags of rice, of 25 kg rice is what we're talking about here for each state. Let's take Lagos, for example. 20 million people in Lagos State. A large percentage of that number are hungry. What can 24,000 bags of rice do for people? Instead, it will cause more chaos. Remember the incidents where people trampled upon each other because they're trying to pay, I think it was the customs, cheaper food. We create more chaos, and we turn into animal farm, jungle. You saw the bread, when people were trying to buy bread, that they were throwing bread. It just makes Nigeria, it dehumanizes Nigerians when we give, a little drop into a mighty ocean. It doesn't go anywhere. And so the recommendations that we find mentioned in terms of the bigger conversations we should be having. One thing we didn't also talk about is security. Yes. We cannot talk about improving farming, getting people to go back to their farming insecurity. This is the issue that we've been talking about a number of times. They had to sort all those things out.
While palliatives are great, it all boils down to effective distribution at this time. But Dr. Batti, I'd like for you to speak on Betta Edu's letter, alleged letter, which she posted on X, that has been causing all this brouhaha.
Okay, number one, the fact that Betta Edu was implicated in the opening of accounts at the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, I think it's a matter that is already being addressed by the EFCC. We may not necessarily be insisting that we should be given updates on the investigations. One of the details, they said that about 80 or more than, that number accounts were opened. And then, it may compromise the investigation process. It's important to know how the state works. So it's not as if they'll be investigating and EFCC will be coming every day to come and tell you this is where we are with the investigation. But it's most unfortunate what has happened at the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, to the extent that the former minister and the present minister are, so to speak, in the eye of the storm. Maybe that ministry should even be scrapped, since it's not meeting its objectives, after they have completed their investigation. Or they should rename the ministry. Maybe they should find another name for it, or plug whatever holes, that make it possible for people to say, oh, this is a ministry where we just distribute money and nobody knows where the money is going. Now, about the letter-headed paper, well, what is shown on the screen did not indicate the letter-headed paper. I will have felt better.
Oh, it's there. I
didn't see it.
I'll send it to you.
Yes, so, that also has to be established properly and to make sure that it is not AI generated.
So it says Betta Edu, then at the bottom.
This is a platform, on social media, I think, that reported this. We just need to be sure.
On her Twitter.
And if she's still using the letter-headed paper, while she's on suspension, that would be a wrong thing to do. Yeah. But haven't we seen in this same country where a minister was using letter-headed paper of a ministry to invite people to her husband's birthday party? So this is the kind of thing that you'll find in this country.
That's a family affair.
Number three of the matter is that as an individual, she's well within her rights to express concern about the school. So whether, at that level as a human being, she can have that empathy. But I know that many Nigerians would like to see the matter of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, addressed, because that ministry does not have a good record for managing disaster.
Yes.
Instead, it creates disaster.
I mean, wasn't it the other day we talked about Sadia Umar Farouk, telling her to account for the former... Yes.
I said the former minister.
Yes.
That ministry creates disaster. And that's why I think, in terms of nomenclature, apart from the corruption issue being investigated, maybe they should even change the name of that title.
Yes.
I can't immediately think of an alternative title.
A social welfare program, like we've always had. Just a regular Ministry of Social Welfare. Ministry of Social Welfare. I mean, it's just a simple,
President Tinubu changed it from Ministry of Disaster Management to Poverty Alleviation.
Poverty Alleviation.
So during Buhari's
they are not alleviating poverty.
It's really just social. Like, there's no country in this world that doesn't have a program for the poorest of the poor. I mean, America, with your social security number, they can, find your details. They distribute food stamps and all of that to the poorest of their citizens.
One ministry cannot alleviate poverty. Ministry of Health is alleviating poverty. Ministry of Housing is alleviating poverty.
All right.
All the ministries are to alleviate poverty. So they must take another look at the nomenclature.
Absolutely.
And take another look at the processes.
I love that point. Well, all right. In the meantime, reactions have also trailed President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's appointment of a former Lagos state lawmaker, Mojisola Alimola, as the executive director of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund. Alimola represented Amuodofin 1 in Lagos back in 2020 and was exposed for diverting COVID-19 palliatives meant to alleviate the suffering of the poor masses during the COVID-19 lockdown and rebranding the palliative as her birthday 7 years. Well, her appointment has sparked criticism of the Tinubu administration's commitment to transparency and accountability. Let me take this tweet from Farm Grid, who wrote, Mrs. Mojisola Alimola was caught hoarding and diverting food items purposely meant for COVID-19 palliative as her birthday gift. Diverting public food is a breach of trust. Ideally, she should be in prison. This woman is a scourge. She shouldn't be allowed close to any treasury. I mean, you cannot blame Nigerians for thinking this way because, I mean, there was no accountability at the time during that process. If you recall, we took this story. And, after that, we haven't heard anything until, this new appointment.
Why are you surprised, Oji? The reward for doing anything not right in Nigeria is a pat on the back and more opportunities. We've built a political system that it looks as though if you're a good, kind, loving person, you'll never rise up the ranks. It's filled with people that have done a lot of bad things, that do not care for the people, and all of that. So look at the system we've built. We've built a country where the ignoble amongst us rise. But those that have the empathy for people do not rise. In a fair and sane country, that should have been a strong ground for disqualification. That palliatives for people, for the poorest of the poor, was rebranded. And the funny thing is, I'm not going to indict Alimola for this alone, because most people did it. And most of the senators did it to that period. That was what led to people going to tear down the warehouses to bring the food out. So almost all of them in the political class did it. A couple of years ago, I think that period I just started working in Arise, I think about 2019, 2020. Where the issue came up, where ICPC investigated most lawmakers for constituency projects. It was seen that a lot of them diverted that money to them. Till date, what were the sanctions meted out to them? I'm sure probably most of those lawmakers were re-elected today. So the reward for doing something bad in this country, as long as you're connected to the top, is more opportunities. And that's the kind of country we build.
Yeah.
And that's why when you see things like this happen, all you can say is to sing the national anthem by saying, Nigeria, we hail thee, our old their native land.
That's it.
That's just it.
Nigeria, we hail thee. I mean, the issue of, these appointments by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been, criticized heavily. A lot of people have been talking about the fact that, he should find a way to rejig his whole cabinet because some of those appointees have been questionable.
I think the bigger question that is posed by this is that, look, as a country, we have to make up our minds whether we are very serious about fighting corruption. Now, because it's beginning to look like an impossible task. Now, local council chairmen will now begin to get allocations directly. You are creating, willy-nilly, the law is the law, yes, but you are creating another 774 local councils.
Chiefdoms.
How many local councils would the EFCC or the NFIU be targeting and, all the accounts, illegal accounts that they all open? Now, if somebody was caught, all of them have done it, but if somebody was openly identified as someone who converted palliatives to personal use, should the person be rewarded with a bigger appointment? Now, this Mrs. Macaulay has now been appointed Executive Director Operations at the National Social Insurance Trust Fund. It's not Executive Director Research. Operations. You will be in charge of operations. with all the implications that connotes. So the Nigerians who have expressed anxiety,
you can't blame them.
You cannot blame them at all. Because
look at this.
Even if this is an opportunity for redemption, what is her record? As Amu word of fame, but they say she's APC chieftain. It looks like APC chieftains are the ones always in charge.
Lagos APC chieftain.
Always in charge of palliatives.
Indomie, you have to say it. Ordinary Indomie, they can't give us
this is why these bags of rice that they are given to the state.
They have to.
Those bags of rice are not only for APC.
No.
People who are not APC, people who are not even politicians, they also like to eat rice.
We like to eat rice.
I think we eat rice.
Yes, for the first time I ate rice.
Chairman of rice group. No, jollof rice.
I ate rice and chicken. That chicken that you love so much. I mean,
you ate on Sunday. You ate on Monday.
Chairman did well. He did very well.
I think Chairman should do it for the whole week.
For the whole week. I mean, they are distributing rice to all the states. Why not every week? We need more rice. Before I come to you, I need you to talk, because Dr. Batti has talked about the APC and what they are doing. Well, in the meantime, a campaign billboard of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his re-election in 2027 has making rounds on social media. Barely a year in office. Well, on the billboard is a picture of Tinubu holding his wife, Remy, with the inscription, Grassroots Support for Tinubu 2027. The billboard, which is said to have been sponsored by a group called Dark Martyrs, is mounted close to the National Stadium in Abuja. You've seen this, I've seen this for a week now, and it's still there. I mean, this is campaign season. I don't know if INEC has even announced any sort of
one of the
fixed timetable.
If Nigerians can be cured or delivered.
Is this legal? I mean,
Dr. Batti, the timeline hasn't opened yet for campaign season. Not even talk about announcements of election dates or anything close to elections. It's often said that the first 2 years is for governance. By the time you enter third year, they're strategizing. Now the people have taken the time back, meaning that now hustling for tickets and elections coming earlier. But if only we can be rescued and delivered from eye service in this nation, and praise singers and sycophants, maybe we'll do a little bit better. I think we interviewed the man who is behind this billboard, and he said that he's done so fantastically well in 1 year plus that they are already giving him. I mean, the Senate president gave him 4 years, 4 extra years. So what are we talking about here? But the truth is, going back to Mrs. Ali Macaulay, I'm passionate about that because we've advocated for more women appointments. President Tinubu promised, I think, 35%. And so when we're talking about incompetence, which is something that has come up a lot of times, incompetence and corruption, and how both of them feed each other, we cannot move forward as a nation if it is only based on man, no man, who knows who, and not on. I mean, I don't know what her records are in terms of giving her that position as ED operations, but her record in terms of morality doesn't speak a lot.
All right, we need to keep speaking up. Shall we take our final story?
Dark Matters.
Dark Matters. What does it mean?
Dark Matters.
I don't know if this is Dark Matter. It's an ordinary campaign, Dr. Batti.
It's very dark.
It's very dark.
After 1 year in office, they are already campaigning.
All right.
And we are still hoping.
It's renewed hope. Dr. Batti, we shall take our final story now. We'll head over to the United States, where President Donald Trump has received a hero's welcome at the Republican National Convention. It was the former president's first public appearance. Since he narrowly survived an attempted assassination, he walked in majestically, with the gauze covering his right ear. To a rousing applause, many of his supporters endorsed the president, including Philadelphia-born model, actor, and TV personality Amber Rose, who told delegates at the convention, which was themed Making America Wealthy Again, that MAGA world is where she belongs, and that Donald Trump was not a racist.
I realize Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong. American families were better when Donald Trump was president. We were safer, wealthier, and stronger. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to put money back in our pockets and good food on our kids' plates. Or, as Trump would say, it's a vote to make America great again. Thank you so much.
A real MAGA supporter. I wish we had time to, discuss this, but it was good to see Trump is out there.
She looks like a MAGA.
He's a MAGA. Make America great again. Let's all make Nigeria great again. Well, all right. I'd like to thank you all for a great analysis, as always, on What's Trending. Well, that's all I have for you guys on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.